Though it's sometimes easy to forget, I've been making Universe Mode videos for almost 5 years. A lot can happen in that time span, both on screen and behind the scenes. There are many universe moments that I enjoy recommending to people, and many others that I regret making in the first place. But is that everything that has happened? I might have greenlit just about anything in the early days of this channel without a second thought. But surely that isn't the case now, is it? Are there any plans that I could have gone with but ultimately decided to scrap? Clearly there are. The title of the video is a dead giveaway. And so, my lovely viewers, today on Behind the Universe, we will be breaking down 4 plans that could have happened. The Royal Rumble was a project unlike anything I had ever made before. My last Rumble match in WWE 2K15 was completely unscripted, and it shows. When Booker T can survive for 21 minutes, but guys like Roman Reigns, Dolph Ziggler, and Seth Rollins can't even last 5, that's a huge problem. And don't get me started on Dean Ambrose's 43 seconds. Suffice it to say that this year's Rumble didn't have much to live up to. But I wanted to knock it out of the park anyway. Planning out a 40-man Rumble match was a fun challenge, but there were a few ideas that I had to scrap. Remember how Goldberg made an appearance during the match? Yeah, that wasn't initially planned. Instead of Goldberg, Brock Lesnar was supposed to stand face to face with the king of strong style, Shinsuke Nakamura. That wasn't a last-minute choice either. I had been planning Nakamura's Rumble debut as early as Survivor Series. Unfortunately, while 2K did put him in the game, it was as a part of their deluxe edition. Since I wasn't willing to fork out the extra cash for the game, this meant that I had to wait until 2K released the NXT Enhancement Pack separately. That didn't happen until after I started production on the Rumble. And since I hate visual inconsistencies between calls and the in-game models, I decided to just delay Nakamura's debut entirely. Personally, I think it was for the best. My only reason for bringing him into the Rumble was that stare down with Lesnar, which means that I would have had to find a way to eliminate him. On top of that, Nakamura would have eliminated Lesnar, which would have taken the moment away from Daniel Bryan and Titus O'Neil. Lesnar's elimination served as revenge for both of those men, and without it, the triple threat between Bryan, Lesnar, and Punk would have had less meaning. I'll delve into more detail on the Punk-Bryan rivalry in the future, but I think that triple threat was crucial in bringing Lesnar's role in the story to a close. Giving Titus the one-up on Lesnar was another nice touch, considering that he and Darren were scheduled to win the tag titles at WrestleMania. As for Nakamura, I wasn't going to give him a match with Brock until Mania, so he wouldn't have had much to do during those 2 months after the Rumble. Besides, I think his actual debut on SmackDown had more impact. If I wanted him to look like a megastar from day one, having him show up and kick the crap out of Lesnar was probably the better option. If making your in-ring debut at WrestleMania doesn't sell you as the next big thing, I don't know what will. My philosophy towards booking is that less is more. Single moments of shock value are important, but they're ultimately meaningless if they aren't in service of the overall story. Bringing in Nakamura might have gotten people excited, but that would have happened regardless of when he debuted. Why not save it to elevate a SmackDown episode? I think Goldberg was a better replacement. It still gets the nostalgia pop, but I don't have to worry about keeping him strong for the future. I could throw him out to elevate someone else while still hyping people through his confrontation with Brock. The shock value was still there, but instead of suppressing everyone else to elevate Nakamura, I could use Goldberg and Lesnar to elevate guys like Bryan and Titus. I mean, it's not like Goldberg is coming back to the series anytime soon. Shut up, I know. While we're on the topic of Brock Lesnar, let's talk about that triple threat some more. The last episode of SmackDown prior to Roadblock featured a pay-per-view quality clash between CM Punk, Daniel Bryan, and Brock Lesnar. In the past, I've struggled with high-quality pay-per-views overshadowing my regular product. Granted, pay-per-views are supposed to be better than an average show. Sorry about that. Where was I? Oh, right. Pay-per-views are supposed to be better than average shows, but that's no excuse to make weak Raw or SmackDown episodes. My problem in the past was that I would always save the biggest moments in any storyline for a pay-per-view. What that means, however, is that anything in between pay-per-views serves, at best, as compelling build-up, at worst, as bland padding. Think of WWE's recent Seth Rollins vs. Triple H rivalry, for example. Hunter cost Seth the Universal title back in July? August? The two didn't compete until WrestleMania. Now, I love me a slow-burning storyline. Take a look at my Sting, Wyatt, or Rollins-Ambrose rivalries for proof of that. A storyline consists of continuously moving parts, though. My Punk-Bryan rivalry wasn't perfect, and I'll discuss why in a future video, but at least 10 months of that year-and-a-half build was directly focused on progressing the feud, even if there were a few detours along the way. Triple H disappeared after that one night and didn't show up again until Seth appeared at NXT TakeOver in January. That's not a moving part. That is stagnating the feud until you finally decide you want to start it. Basically, dragging things out unnecessarily will only cheapen the payoff. Tying up a few plot threads on your weekly show won't hurt you at all. In this example, my goal was a Punk-Bryan WrestleMania match. I wanted Brock Lesnar to fight Nakamura, so I had to get him out of the picture. Now, I could have held the triple threat at Roadblock instead, but that card was already packed. It would have been overshadowed by the other two marquee matchups. So instead of cutting a match that served to elevate guys like Blake and Murphy versus The Revival, I decided to let this triple threat main event SmackDown instead. Unsurprisingly, it was the most popular video from that week. Funnily enough, that triple threat match was originally supposed to happen well before Roadblock. My initial plan for this match began all the way back at Survivor Series, believe it or not. CM Punk was going to return to cash in his rematch clause for Brock's WWE title. Presumably, the two would have had a match at Fastlane. At that point, Daniel Bryan would have returned to set up a triple threat for the belt at Royal Rumble. First of all, let me say that this plan is flawed on so many levels. The idea that Bryan would return exactly 1 month after Punk to lengthen the feud is incredibly contrived. Granted, both guys returning in the same Rumble match isn't exactly realistic, but I digress. On top of that, the WWE title would have been trapped in this storyline. Guys like Titus O'Neil, Roman Reigns, and Adrian Neville would never have had a chance. Thankfully, I delayed the angle and decided to put the belt on Kevin Owens instead. Imagine where the series would be right now if Kevin Owens hadn't won the title when he did. If Punk, Lesnar, and Bryan held the top of the card, guys like Owens would never have broken into the main event. Adrian Neville wouldn't have had his one-night stand. I don't know who would have fought The Undertaker. Man, it's a good thing that CM Punk tried his hand at the UFC when he did. That also explains why his face looked so different when he first came back. It's a good thing that the Universe Mode rumor mill was able to give us that critical piece of information. Link in the description. I've already established that Kevin Owens wasn't originally booked to win the WWE title when he did. Heck, his debut match against Cesaro was basically a last-minute call. Once he won that Intercontinental title, however, I knew that he wasn't going to hold it for very long. Skip ahead to Fastlane, and Kevin Owens has now beaten the Beast Incarnate twice. Who would he fight next? Who could possibly fill Lesnar's shoes? The answer was no one. I hadn't been building any new challengers. The closest thing that I had to an established main eventer was Roman Reigns. You heard me, Kevin Owens was going to fight Roman Reigns at the Royal Rumble, but I changed my mind. I gave him a win over Lesnar just before Fastlane to set him up as the next top contender, but he had already lost 3 big pay-per-view matches at Battleground, King of the Ring, and SummerSlam respectively. One win over the former champion wouldn't suddenly make him look like a monster, so I decided to mix things up. If I couldn't build a threatening opponent for Kevin Owens, why not give him a red-hot underdog instead? Adrian Neville had already defeated John Cena just before Fastlane, so I decided to throw him into a match with Sheamus. Originally, the #1 contenders match was going to be Roman Reigns versus Sheamus, but I decided to put Neville into the bout instead. Poor Sheamus. I'm sure you'll get an opportunity somewhere down the road. It wasn't until I started recording the episode that I decided to give Neville the win. I've been a fan of Adrian Neville ever since NXT Arrival, but for the longest time, I couldn't think of how to push him. He was originally going to put over Corey Graves at Nope, saving that for another time. By this point, I had already given him wins over 2 former world champions, so I thought it would be a missed opportunity to have him put over Reigns. Roman had been inconsistent ever since Money in the Bank, while Adrian Neville was riding a wave of momentum after his matches with Cena and Sheamus. So I decided to give him a shot at the big prize. He was never going to win the belt, but giving him a shot wouldn't hurt Roman Reigns or Kevin Owens in any way. This also gave me an excuse to write off Neville for a few months. I hadn't yet realized the idea of a 6-man ladder match, so I had nothing planned for Neville at Mania. I did consider putting him in a qualifying match, but I didn't see the point if I was just going to draft him to Raw immediately after Mania. Instead, the Royal Rumble became Adrian Neville's one-night stand. Not only did that match showcase his potential, but it also emphasized just how dominant Kevin Owens could be. Neville displayed a picture-perfect performance, but his 100% just wasn't good enough to topple Kevin Owens. Does that make Neville look weak? Yes, it does, but not any weaker than he was going into the match. If anything, Neville bringing Owens to the brink of defeat shows just how strong Neville can be. He still needs some work, but now you know that when Neville arrives on Raw, he could be a game changer. Not just in the mid-card, but potentially in the main event. I have to be careful with this last entry. Not only am I cautiously approaching spoiler territory, but it's something that everyone who watches my series has been eagerly anticipating ever since this superstar debuted. Finn Balor's inner demon. Don't worry, I'm not revealing anything here. Like I'd tell you how the demon is going to debut. Don't mock me like that. However, there was one moment where I considered letting Finn Balor unleash the demon. And if you've been paying attention to this list at all, you should already know when that was. The Royal Rumble, but more specifically, the Tag Team Championship match. Remember how the Revival attacked Balor backstage and forced Hideo Itami into a handicap situation for most of the match? Yeah, I kind of dropped the ball on that one. Balor eventually came to Itami's rescue, and the two fought off Blake and Murphy for the win, but I can't help but think that something was missing. Oh yeah! Why didn't Balor bring out the demon? I'm sure that you're just dying to know the reason, and my answer is quite simple. I didn't think of it until after I edited the match. Good night, everybody! Thanks for watching. As always, if you have any okay, you probably want more than that. Why didn't I just redo the match, you ask? Well, here's the thing. Hypothetically speaking, I may have already thought of a storyline surrounding the demon. Debuting it here would only contradict certain aspects of that future rivalry. So, no demon. Not here. Not now. I've screwed myself over in the past by rushing into things too quickly. See any of my Pretend It Never Happened videos for proof of that. And the last thing I want to do is ruin a key component of Finn Balor's character. Have patience, friends. The demon's arrival may be closer than you think. Once I get back to making Universe Mode videos, that is. Thanks for watching. As always, if you have any suggestions for future topics or ideas on how I can improve the series, be sure to let me know in the comments below. If you're interested in learning more about me, you can follow me on Twitter @Mathos97x. Until next time, keep on YouTubing.